about you. Now, I know he is a radio commentator too, and he does, they do a, what do you call it? Tell them what you do with Ron Lutters, okay?
I will.
Okay. Here you go.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so everybody out, my mother says I have a radio voice. And I tell people when they say that now, well, yeah, it's because, well, I've been on the radio. I had a television show. I've done lots of stuff like that. But what I mostly am is a Tea Party person, and I have been. I was one of the original Tea Party people as we all got together way back when. And I'm also one of those people who then, what you will find out, we'll talk about the alliance plan tonight that I write in this book that we're going to talk about as well. So I'm going to cover lots of different topics tonight, and listening to everyone talking at the tables, man, there's a lot of concerns in this room. And it's no different than we Tea Partiers have had for the last decade. Are we doing better? Yes, and it's thanks to Donald Trump, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. And join me tonight and every night as I pray for Donald Trump, and he prays for us. So here's my view of Donald Trump, and it's so important. I want to just start out this way. So my thinking is, as a Tea Party person, that Donald Trump doesn't have a movement. What Donald Trump probably sitting probably in a very expensive hair salon in New York City, and just imagine the Tea Party is having a parade down the road by where he's getting his hair done. And he says, you know what? I like those guys. They need a leader. I think it should be me. So he jumped out in front of the parade. And thank God he did. Thank God he did. It's exactly what we needed. So I look at Trump that way. And a lot of people I know, and certainly in the Phoenix area and the Tea Party's there, think that it is a divine thing that he's there. Now, I'm not saying he was on the Christ train coming down. But you know, God sent us a lot of strange people to help ordinary people get along in this world. And it's how our country got founded and why we ordinary people are here today. And one of the things that has been happening before Donald Trump is they forgot this country is for the ordinary people. It's not for the extraordinary. It's not for the blessed. It's not for the royalty. This country is founded for the ordinary people to be in control of it. That was the plan. That was the work that the founders did. And as you just read the Constitution that Don's got in his pocket, where'd Don go?
Oh, he's back.
It's in his pocket. It reiterates that. And so when we think of the rights, I just grabbed that thing from him. I said, let me look at that Declaration of Independence. Because we always think of our rights as being the Bill of Rights. And of course that's true. We think of number 2, or number 1 especially, those two. But the first rights were in the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the duty and the right to throw off a government that doesn't represent the ordinary people.
It's your duty, it says.
It is your duty and it is your right. Also says that. It's right and duty. So those are the first rights. The other ones came later. But what we went to war for against the most powerful country in the world at that time, and at that time the most powerful country ever, was for those first rights. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the right, if we see fit, to throw off those who would control the ordinary people. Because this country is to be under our control. And so what I posit in this book that I'm talking about tonight, which is Ruling the Elite, down there in red at the bottom, is that that's what's happened. Our country has come under the control of the ruling elite. And the ruling elite have always plagued ordinary people. The founders knew that. So whether they're a sheikh, a queen, a king, a dictator, it's Caesar, the chiefs of tribes, it's always been that the few want to control the many. The few control the many. And they believe, and I think the elite in this country on both parties believe, they're just supposed to control us. They just know better. And if you think that as a leader, of course you're going to think socialism is great too. Because we would just know better than a free market. Because a free market's left up to what? The buyers, the ordinary people. And yet what we've seen in history is this nation of which we are citizens, and we are the ordinary people. Look how it's worked out. No country has excelled like the United States in such a short time. And why? Free people in a free market, and that is what this country is about. Now, those of you who are Christians, shouldn't surprise you. I did a whole series of vacation Bible school lessons or Sunday school lessons. And if you want to have them, just contact me. I'll give you contact information. But what I did is I took Christianity and made a whole study for a year on Christianity and the Constitution. Friends, they're like this. Judeo-Christian law, Judeo-Christian rules, hopes, dreams, and values are what this country is based on. And I don't say that because I'm a Christian or a Jew. I am a Christian, but it's those values that we revere. And the Constitution is written to project those values into a real thing, a nation formed around those values. Free people. So we always say, I know we get a battle as Christians. It's like, well, God's in charge. Oh, God's in it, he'll do it. And I believe that too, but you have to remember what he said. He said, you have free will. You have free will. I'm going to tell you what to do, but you, every American in this country, has free will.
Amen.
So the founders said, here's a country based on Christian values and your ordinary people's free will. And we have a party today that wants to take free will away and put it in the dustbin of history. Now, why would they want to do that? Because the ruling elite have always wanted to do that. Every country's faced the same thing. And every democracy is facing it now. And what is that? Well, today, parties, I'm a Republican. Most of us are Republicans because it's the better party. But the reality is the ruling elite have used parties to overwhelm democracy. So every place there's a democracy or a democratic republic, constitutional republic, however you want to say it, it's gotten overwhelmed by parties. And what do parties do? They eliminate the separation of powers. So a party has everything from the dog catcher to the president. We've got a common bond. We must all march together in a party. And so that's hurt us constitutionally. And they've helped enslave ordinary people once again. So our challenge is, and it's why I got in, I've been a Democrat, I was independent for a long time, but I got in the Republican Party to change it as a non-establishment Tea Party conservative. And that's what I've been doing. So now it came, I was one of the people considered to take out lines and become, the replacement for him for running the party in the state. I elected not to do it. I fasted and prayed for 3 days on that very subject. And it came to me that I shouldn't do that because it was too much of me in it. And that's what I got. So I couldn't do it. So I said, guys, I can't do it. I can't run. I can't. I prayed about it. I can't do it. There's something else. I don't know what it is, but it's not this for me. So it's gone on. We had an election. Kelly Ward's been out there now, and she's our head of our party. But the point is that I guess I have a bigger vision. One of the things I developed right down at the bottom was one GOP. So this was a plan to put our party together. And I talked to Kelly about it before the election when I turned over and talked to Frosty and switched everything over to support Kelly. But one GOP was a plan to set up our party in this state, and maybe the country, so we would bring the establishment side in, those people that still are about, in my opinion, what's in it for me, and I'm on the power train, and I've been on it, my family's been on it, whatever, and ordinary people who say, I'm about the Constitution. It's not about me, it's about us. Us, the ordinary people, the vision the founders had. And it's been left behind because the elites also run the media. They control education. and in my opinion, have worked together to bring us to the brink of socialism. So, and I said this last month in the Republican group, so I don't know how you feel about our famous senator that's passed away, but Senator McCain, the reason why I didn't support Senator McCain is because I believe he was in one of the most powerful positions in this nation for one of the longest times of any person. And during that time, we moved from having a kind of a left bent or seeing the left to being left in control of many things. He brought us to the brink of socialism. And instead of stopping it, he was sweeping off the sidewalk and pointing the way for the Democrats to do it as one of Republican elites. So I look at the elites of our party and the elites of the Democrats as two sides of the same coin. And in my book, I talk about it as like a professional boxing match, right? So these guys, they decide who the candidates are going to be, and then everybody finds out this is when the election/bout is going to take place. And they hype it up, they all put money behind it and everything to get out there. And everybody comes in, they buy tickets, oh, my guy's going to win. No, I hate your guy. I like my guy. He has prettier trunks, he has neater tattoos, he's the right color, whatever. They pick a favorite. And then everybody comes and there's the fight and it's all controlled and everybody goes to the corners and stuff. Okay, and then there's a winner. Sometimes even it's actually a fight and it's not picked in advance, but there's a winner and then everybody leaves. And what happens? The guys there in the ring, they go out to dinner and split the money. That's our two parties. The ruling elite of the two parties. Now, you may not agree with that, but just consider that that might be the case. And if you read this book that I have called Ruling the Elite, Moving Power from the Parties to the People, it'll underscore what I'm saying. And I give in this book a recipe for what we must do to take the country back. It's not just, hey, it came to me. I know it's wrong. It's, I know what we can do to make it right. And one of the things I talked about in the last meeting in this room was, there's lots of things we can do. One of them I talked about was, what's the one thing, if this doesn't happen, we're lost. But it will happen, because it has to. It is this, we have to have certified news. Now, if you're a professional, I don't care, it doesn't matter in America, if you're a plumber, an electrician, there are rules to your work. If you don't comply with these rules, you lose your license. And yet we have a press that can routinely lie to 300 million people every day, and nothing happens except chaos. And so now we've got a party that doesn't even report anything nice about the other side. If it's not bad, it's not reported. That's right. And you've seen it in the last election. You saw it with Romney. You certainly saw it with Trump. And even now, not election time, most people right now on the left have never seen the tape, and they don't even know what you're talking about. If you talk about Biden and his quid pro quo, they have no idea what you're talking about. What? Because the left doesn't show that. And they don't watch anything but the Communist News Network. And whatever, CBS, the Communist Broadcasting System, I don't know. But those people, and it's not an accident. How many people in here have read or know Agenda 21? Right. Of course, they executed Agenda 21. Destroy the family, take out the church, take over the institutions of education and the media. So, how many people in here realize that or think that the media is biased? Do you think the media is biased? Right, but you're all wrong. You're all wrong because they're actually part of the Democratic Party. The pretending is that they're not, but they are. It's all, that's it. It's just like the college professors, they control it, just like unions. So, other things that we can be done. One of the things that's, as an example, that's wrong, think about this. So we give all this money, and I've been in unions, okay? I mean, I'm an AFL-CIO, Teamsters, SAG, and AFTRA. I've been in 4 different unions. And you guys union guys in here? Any guys been in unions, are in unions? Right. I mean, you know what it's like. The reality is, the ordinary guy, There's a ruling elite in the unions. And they don't care about the ordinary guy. It's about power, control. So, in my opinion, we have no business as a nation paying for any union stuff in our government, because that supports one party, because the Democratic Party and the unions are one and the same. They are the party. And right now, we have a woman running for President of the United States, Elizabeth Warren. Now think about Elizabeth Warren for a second. Has anybody heard about her Capitalism Accountability Act?
Yes.
Okay, this is very interesting, and it's true. So Elizabeth Warren has this act, and she wants to make capitalism accountable. And how's she going to do it? So her plan, and this is already out there, look it up. Every company, I think it's doing business of $1 billion a year. She wants 40% of the people to be elected employees. Now let's translate, let's unpack that. Elected employees. Now what would that mean? Well, that would mean unions. And unions are what? The party. Unions, the party. It's like La Raza is the race. Well, when they talk Democrat, that's the party. Anybody else doesn't matter. So they want to put Democratic operatives on every business. Now, who else would do such a thing? Well, Communist China. That's exactly what they have right now. And that's part of the thing you're hearing, because they want companies, and American companies, working in China to do the same thing. They want you to put communist people, the party, their party, on the boards here in America. That's how bold they've got it. And Elizabeth Warren wants the party. It's much more related to China than America in values. That's what she wants. But there's nobody talking about that. Why? Well, the left's not going to talk about it. They won't say anything bad about their own. They won't say anything good about us. We're deplorables, after all. So that's their elitism talking. Now, here's the thing about Trump that I really like. Here's my imagination of what he did. So he is in the elite, clearly, billionaire. He's in the elite. In New York City, oh my gosh, Democratic stronghold. And why they're so, I don't like to say PO'd, but I don't say it. I leave that to Hannah and we should quit saying it on television. But why so many people got upset? Well, it's not my mom. Okay.
I'll get it.
Yeah. Okay. So why people got so upset is he is in the group. Now imagine he's in this group, right? So let's say we're the ruling elite in New York, mostly Democrats, because Donald was a Democrat, which go down a rabbit hole a little bit. You remember when he was on the bus and what he actually said, but they said he said something else about women, because if you're rich, you can do that, and it was 14 years ago. But nonetheless, what he should have said is, I don't know why you're all upset about it. I said that back when I was a Democrat. And we shut him up. He still hasn't said that. But so he's in that group, and then he decides to jump in front of the Tea Party parade, and he goes over here and he looks back at all his cohorts in New York City and elsewhere, and he says, you know that saying of Hillary that he's got? That were all the people wearing the T-shirts? I'm with her. Remember that in the last election? Well, the Trump T-shirt would have read, I'm with them. I'm with the ordinary people. I am extraordinary. I am an elite, but I'm with the ordinary people because the values of this country, that's what it's about. I don't want the power. I'm not even going to take any pay. I want to lead the value parade to get America back to greatness. And man, he hit those values, and America got lit up again. Because that's who we really are. So Donald Trump is for the ordinary man. So, geez.
I'm not here.
Is there anybody that says, quit it? Okay, let me just turn this on. Okay. So, that's just the introduction. We're just getting started. Okay. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the Democrats, they play a long game and they play a short game. Golfers in here, I'm sure. So there's a long game and a short game. And one of the many long games, like take over education, wipe out the church, make people beholden to them, have the state become the religion, and claim, of course, it's not. But it is a religion. So at any rate, another long ball is the national popular vote. That's what it's known as. Now I'm going to show you a little tape here that's about, I've been going around talking about this for some time. We prepared a tape that's out on YouTube, and I gave Don this information, but it's out of Tim Horn NPV. I'm going to try to bring it up right now. Excuse me for a second. We'll get this rolling. It's 9 minutes long, but it's going to tell you what you need to know about the national popular vote, what you might not have heard before, in a very concise, straightforward way that ordinary people can understand. And then we'll talk about it, and we'll have some questions. Let me do this. All right, here we go.
Thank you, Don. Thank you.
All right.
Because you are concerned, full of energy, and maybe even angry about how presidential elections turn out, you are at the right place. If you're confused about the process and why it seems so complicated, you're also at the right place. If you're knowledgeable and understand the way it is done and upset about others being upset, you'll also find the next 8 minutes rewarding and important. Hi, I'm Tim Horn. I'm a student of American freedom, an author, media commentator, and a speaker about American life. Our focus today is on the sometimes controversial method we use to elect a person to the position of President of the United States. Now, before we discuss complaints and changes to that method, let's make sure that all of us understand the current why and the how of electing the American president. That makes sense, doesn't it? So, the way America determines its president and vice president, its federal legislators, and its federal judges are all prescribed by the Constitution of the United States. It was all agreed to by representatives of the American states in 1789, becoming the one and only supreme law of the land. All laws emanate from it and must comply with it. This document, created by agreement, a system of states with sovereign powers, a base of individual citizens with specifically stated rights, and a federal government which would service and protect both the states and the citizens. The Constitution can be amended by the states, but it is difficult to do so. It requires 2/3 of the state legislators or state convention members to propose a change, referred to as an amendment, and 3/4 of all the states or members to approve a change in the Constitution. Even with this nearly unanimous requirement, amendments have been done 27 times in the 228 years since our nation was formed.
Thank you.
The remaining 17 amendments included some unfinished business, like the end of slavery and voting rights for women, as well as other modifications that keep it in sync with the culture of America, like the minimum federal voting age. So there it is, the Constitution, the foundation of every American law. So what does it require regarding the election of a president? The selection of people for each of the federal bodies is designed to be different in election, duties, and in time served, so as to enhance the separation of powers and to discourage the concentration of power. House representatives are elected by state district for 2 years. Senators by entire states for 6 years. Presidents begin with 51 individual popular elections. That's 50 states plus Washington, D.C. Then it's weighted by state populations using electors to cast the final vote. There's one elector provided for each House representative, that number being based on population, and one for each senator, which is 2 in every state, referred to as the Electoral College process. These people cast the deciding ballots for president based on which presidential candidate received either most or some portion of the state popular vote, depending on the state law. That is the why and the how of electing the President of the United States. So what then is the clamor of those seeking to change the way the President has been elected successfully and peacefully for well over 2 centuries? The national popular vote proponents contend that only a direct popular vote should be used, and the electoral weighting is not fair to voters because only a few states get major attention from the presidential candidates. A key part of evidence they cite is data on post-primary visits of the candidates to each state. This data shows that 8 or 9 states get most of the presidential candidate attention, visits, and campaign expenditures. This statement, however, seems very shallow, since the change they propose could make the popular votes of entire states meaningless and make the outcome of presidential elections different. And the proponents seem to say that U.S. elections are supposed to be votes where everybody votes and a simple majority wins. In reality, many of the votes prescribed in our American system neither include all citizens nor a majority to win. We already noted how constitutional amendments require representatives to vote on behalf of citizens and 2/3 of the votes to propose and 3/4 to prevail, rather than a simple vote by all. Consider that to pass state or federal laws, it is the representatives of the people that vote, and in the U.S. Senate, most votes need 60% to pass. The NPV people seem to promote that the U.S. is a simple democracy. It is not. In political science terms, America is better described as a constitutional republic, where we elect representatives whose job is to consider issues and vote on behalf of others. Our government was carefully crafted in the Constitution in order to avoid tyranny of the majority and to keep power from getting concentrated into the states with the most people. NPV proponents are seeking to have states join a state compact to bypass the Electoral College in the election of president. State compacts are the legal structures that states use to agree to things of mutual interest. For example, an agreement on how to build a bridge connecting 2 states, or manage a lake which borders multiple states. The NPV people are proposing a plan where a group of states would automatically give their electoral votes to whichever candidate has most of the total votes cast in America. The plan is to have enough states combine their electoral votes to secure the presidency for the person winning the most votes. It bypasses the written intent of the Constitution to not have a simple popular vote for president. The fundamental problem? Bypassing means going around something to get someplace. The NPV compact proponents seek to get around the Constitution to have a popular vote that is not permitted in the Constitution. They believe by having an agreement between 12 to 15 of the largest 50 states, plus DC, they can ignore the Constitution, which requires 34 states to even propose a change in the law and 38 to approve any change in the law. Since they know they cannot meet that requirement, they want you to help them build some new way around it. Consider that if a constitutional bypass agreement were possible, there likely would have been no end to slavery, because the South would have just voted in a bypass. There is no bypass. The Constitution requires major agreement of the states to change the Constitution before any state cannot follow the existing rules. And these proponents know they can't get that much support. The NPV proponents must think that a catchy name, coupled with a constitutional allowance of states to create agreements, can be used to trick the people into supporting a breach of the Constitution, and that they're going to control the U.S. Supreme Court to agree. If someone is willing to get around something, they must not like it. So, who is behind trying this and why? The answer to these questions will make it clear that the NPV must not be approved. Why is this being pushed? 1, 10 states have approved it, and they're all Democrat-controlled states. 2, these 10 are led by the largest states with the most individual voters, California and New York. 3, the NPV would allow just 12 to 15 states, the largest with a few friendly states, to determine the president in every election. And their proportional growth over time would reduce that number to even fewer. Number 4, if this were in place 20 years ago, George Bush would not have had 2 terms, and Donald Trump would not be president now. Put in place today, and the largest states will immediately dominate all of the federal government. Put in place today, there will likely be nothing but a Democrat as president again. ever again. Who is backing this effort? One, ignorant, brainwashed, or anti-American voters, and we have them. Two, Democrats, who widely support voter fraud, media corruption, and street violence, and want to add bypassing the Constitution as a means to gain more power. Three, Republicans that have been manipulated or perhaps bought off. So what is the takeaway here, right now, from what I'm saying? The takeaway is that the NPV compact would forever give your vote for president to the candidate most popular in other states. So you need to think no, talk no, and vote no on the NPV. For our state, NPV means no presidential vote ever again.
Okay. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll talk afterwards.
the idea at all.
Yeah. Did you like the presentation? I hope you did.
Yes.
We worked hard. I wrote it,
Yeah.
and we did that. But volunteers did the lighting and the camera work and everything to get that out. So if you want to get to that, it's Tim Horn NPV, and you can send that
Is there
information.
a dot there?
No, just
No
Tim
dot.
Horn NPV on YouTube. Okay, on YouTube. Go there and search for Tim Horn NPV. Now I've got other stuff out on YouTube too. I did one thing called Joe American, which said Joe American Challenges. You can see that too. And there it was. Do we have to have that on?
You can't
I
see
didn't
you.
need it either. If that's what you're filming.
He's filming you.
You gotta have a
That's okay. I don't mind me. I just want the screen. Is that okay? Do you mind, Don?
Yeah, because-
Okay.
yeah.
This one? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Whoa. Okay. So, Tim Horn NPV, but I did one Tim Horn Challenges or Joe American Challenges. Because, as I said there, my name's not important. The important part is the point that we have enough energy in the United States to be energy independent. How did I know that? 10 years ago. Because I studied all the CIA information. It's readily available. I looked at it and said, we got more of oil, coal, natural gas than anybody.
That's right.
Most in the world, if you put them all together, don't have as much. And that's before Obama said we couldn't even, that doesn't even include the ocean shelves, the continental shelves.
Right.
Folks, so I posited in that, why are we doing this? If you had a boss and they're buying, that's what they're doing, is they're shipping oil completely around the world, and we're paying outrageous prices. We're sending boatloads of money back. What was really going on? What I said is, it's redistribution of wealth.
Right.
Who did this? The ruling elite did it. Anybody? Okay, so that's what was going on. And I thought maybe 5,000 people would do it. Well, it was 5, then it was 10, then it was 100, then it was 2, then it was 400, 500, a million, 1,000,002, 1,000,005, 1,000,008 before they cut it off. I was the first person I ever knew that got cut off on YouTube 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
It was off for almost 2 weeks, and then it came back. It's still there, so you can see it. Folks, they don't like us. They're going to lie. They're going to act up. They want your guns. They want your free speech. They're teaching your kids what we used to think about the communists, to squeal on their parents and families. Folks, it's coming. This is the real deal. They hate us, and their attempt is to destroy us. Now, how do I know that for sure? Because I was one of them. I was on the left. Like some of you maybe, and many people I know, I was on the left when I was in college. Why? Because I was stupid. Well, not stupid. I was smart, but I was ignorant. Ignorant, just like kids today. Oh, anyway. So, yeah, I was on the left, like Ronald Reagan was, Dennis Miller, and Dennis Prager, all of them were on the left. And they got wise. And those are some of the biggest proponents we've got out there for returning America to the ordinary people where it belongs and where it will prosper, and not be stifled for those people who want to take our power and our prosperity for themselves, like happens in every other country. I did an interview with a woman who grew up under Mao in China, and she was talking to me about her whole thing. She says, oh yeah, it's Mao, 10,000 years, Mao, 10,000 years. That was the chant. When he died, all the kids that she grew up with, they all freaked out because they thought he was a god. And that's what they teach it in a socialist country. The leaders are the guy, not God, not Jesus. The people. They are. And therefore, you humble yourself, you give them your prosperity, you give them wealth, and if you don't, they will hurt you. They will hurt you. So I was involved in big architecture. I went through school of architecture. Bill and I were talking about this before we got started tonight. And I did big architecture all over the country. I eventually left it because being the younger guy with the least to lose, I was one of the guys that carried envelopes of cash to politicians. Envelopes of cash to politicians. I hated it so much. Our Governor Rhodes at that time, when he was retiring, they put up a statue out front that showed him because he helped Ohio business. That's where I grew up. And he had a briefcase. He's like walking to get more business. And I was going to cut $1 bills and put them on the seam of that briefcase and take a picture. Now, I didn't ever give the money to him. And it was mostly the Democrats that took the money. There were others, and the Republican side too. But the Democrats, man, it was just, I can't speak for now, but I know things, and I write about some of the things in my book that would just curl your toes. And as I said in the book, I will never mention those names, who was involved behind the scenes, big time politicians, because they will hurt you.
Yeah.
They will.
You want to stay alive.
Ask Rich, and what was his first name, the guy who killed Steve Rich? What is his name? He got wiped out in the streets of Washington, D.C., and many others, or Hillary's attorney. Mark Rich, thank you.
Yeah,
So, yeah, anybody who saw those movies about what Arkansas was like under Clinton, flying in drugs and all the people that died around them, I thought, that can't be. And then I had a client call me after he got elected president. He said, "Hey, Tim," what? He said, are you celebrating out there? I said, "About what? What are you celebrating?" He said, "Well, I'm celebrating because we got rid of him. It's your problem now." We kicked him upstairs. So, at any rate, but these people, I got to tell one other story out of the book too. So I'm talking to Henry Wade. Henry Wade was Wade in Roe versus Wade. And he was district attorney in Dallas County. And he'd been there 26 years. And I'm working on the Dallas County Jail and Courthouse. I'm in charge of this project to rebuild all that. And I was a young guy, but this was a huge project. At that time, it was 120 million or something like that. So I'm talking to Henry Wade about this as we're getting started. And I'm in his office. I'm still a Democrat at this point. And Henry's office was, if we moved that divider and went into the next room, or maybe the next one, that was his office. It was all glass and overlooked the Kennedy Monument. So we're standing in front of the window, and he was a big guy, big around, and big too. So he's smoking this big cigar, and I'm saying, I'm a Democrat, he's a Democrat, right on. Anyway, he says, I said, wow, I was a big Kennedy fan when I was a little kid, and I said, I was 14 when I got involved in politics, and it was because of Kennedy. I liked him, and I couldn't understand why people could say, well, he can't be president, he's a Catholic. I was a Protestant, I'm going, what? This is America. What the heck are you people talking about? But then that's the way we were taught back then, right? We were taught the right values. In fact, in my classroom in rural Ohio, there's a picture of George Washington up here, an American flag. We prayed every morning. We said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and I realize this is heresy today, but there was a picture of Jesus Christ on the wall right here. So that's the way I was raised. Today, all that's bad. Anything like that, oh my gosh, that's bad. But that's what we're up against. So anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but the point is, you can get hurt. And following the truth, and we expect at some time that if you know your first right is to abolish a government that's oppressing ordinary people, your first right's in the Declaration, and you look at the Constitution and you see that we have the right for free speech, and yet these guys are establishing free speech zones, meaning most of it isn't free speech. And by the way, wouldn't it be nice to have a president say, oh, by the way, all of America is a free speech zone.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, I guess you won't get any more money to your college from the federal government.
Yes.
And that's effective in about 5 minutes.
Right.
We need to oppose these people. That's what I'm talking about, really. I'm talking about opposing, because they also want your guns. And so we have a right to throw off our government, and we have the right to guns, but what do they teach kids? Oh, that's for hunting. Yeah, those guns, that's for hunting. That's what it's there for. People don't hunt anymore. They go to the grocery store, hunt in the freezer. So, but that's a lie, of course. It's a lie. It's to protect ourselves from people exactly like the ones we're facing today.
Right.
They lie to you. They look at you. They want to pick your pocket, and they're telling you, we're going to take all your money.
And your guns.
And your guns. And your right to free speech and whatever else you got. Once we're on a roll, we'll take it all. And they will, because how do we know? Because we see it in China. We see it in Russia. We see it in North Korea. We see it in Venezuela, Cuba. No, most people in Cuba did not know Fidel Castro was a communist until after he took control. We got a luxury. Although I wrote about this in my book, and I said, the Democratic Party is the Socialist Party of the United States. They don't want you to know that, because that's a dirty word. Some of you will probably remember when we, the Republicans, used to be the Blue Party.
Yeah.
Or have you been brainwashed to forget that?
Yeah.
Do you remember when it changed?
Correction.
The year was 2000, and a guy named Dan Rather, reporting for the Communist Broadcasting System, said, well, we just switched them. Well, why? Well, look at the relationship he had with their party. And they wanted to be on stealth. They couldn't possibly be that and be the red party. So we got to switch. Make the Republicans the red party. Why? Because there's May Day, red China, red Russia, red North Korea. Well, that looks bad for us. So we don't want to do that anymore. But do you remember when Hispanics were just considered white people? They were, until the census in 2000. And then they said, oh, that's going to be a special group now. They're no longer white people.
No Caucasians.
Yeah, well, now we got Caucasians and Hispanics. You're just white or Caucasian. Didn't matter because it was just white. But they had to have what? Identity politics.
Right.
So what? We could have some people. Remember Animal Farm?
Yeah.
All animals are created equal. And later on it said all animals are created equal. But some are more equal than others. And we have affirmative action.
Yep. Yep.
And on and set-asides. That's another reason we got out of architecture. Architecture is riddled with set-asides, and engineering too. All these federal groups they have for women, I don't know who else. Certainly, probably just leftists now, but it was women, it was Hispanics, and it was blacks. And then white guys had to compete with everybody, but those people had special set-asides. You could only compete if you were one of those special people. And you may remember in the 1968 Civil Rights Act, when that all changed, because everybody's going to be equal. And I remember saying, well, how come we're going to have affirmative action if everybody's going to be equal? Oh, we have to balance things out. What do you mean? So you're going to make some people, you're going to actually discriminate against the majority of people to help the minority? Well, why would we do, so they're going to come back in 50 years and say, okay, I've been discriminated against for 50 years. I want special privileges now. I want set-asides, which is what we should do. So all my life, that's what I've seen. Well, when I lost my first job because I was a white guy. We're only hiring women and blacks. And some of it may happen to you. Well, it's still going on. And they said, I remember asking the question in graduate school. I took a class in social conflict. It was an elective. And I got told by my very liberal female professor, no, there's no such thing as reverse discrimination. I said, the hell, there's not. And she said, do you want to pass this class? Well, I'm planning on it. You might not want to plan it if you say something like that again. So, yeah, in this class, there's no such thing. And this was 1971. I'm going, what? So, and we're still under it. Because it works to divert power and privilege to some. And that way, and as I wrote in this book, and I used to talk on my radio show, if any of you listen to me on KKNT 960, The Patriot, I talked about the fact that white males are going to be the villain, the suppressor of all people. And I had people calling and going, Tim, that's ridiculous. Why would you think such a thing? I said, because I have a gift for the obvious. And today, there's no doubt. You can see it. You're the bad guy. You're the bad person. Automatically. In fact, you have white privilege, so you're not even qualified to say anything. In fact, we have to hate you because of your color of your skin. You're not allowed to speak. There's free speech, but not for you. That's how far it's gone. We see it right now. We have to get this country back. And the sooner we do it, the better. The best thing we can do is take out the leadership, and I've been preaching this since my radio show, take out the leadership of the Democratic Party. That's what has to be done. And then we have to put in certified news, so that if you can't support it, you can't broadcast it, you can't write it. Just like you can't be an attorney, as I was saying before, or a doctor, or whatever, you can't be an organic banana if you don't follow the rules for organic bananas.
That's right.
But if you're a lying SOB on the left-wing news, you're getting awards. You're getting all sorts of, oh, I love that guy. So now we have gay guys dissing people who are straight, women getting down on men, everybody talking about, look at those guys storming in that room, right? Storming in that room against our wonderful Democrats, a bunch of white men.
That's right.
They couldn't say that about anybody else. No identity that's negative, only white men. Now think about that. You and I, we were all taught, you don't diss somebody because of their skin color, but they do, because they can. Because just like the Jews in Germany were dissed for being Jewish, we're marked. Because socialism needs someone to blame, someone to attack, someone to hate. So look over here. Don't look at what I'm doing, because we're wrapping ourselves in the American flag. We love America. Hate these people. Hate them. Because they hate you. What? No, they don't. But if you talk to, if you saw the movie, who saw that movie? Dennis Prager's new movie?
I saw
No Safe Spaces?
Don and Perry saw
All right, so Don, you
it.
saw it, and you saw that group of black guys on that college campus, and Dennis Prager's talking to him.
Yeah.
And the one guy's going, well, you know, Dennis asked him, he says, well, so why do you feel like you're oppressed? He said, because that's what happened. We are. He said, you're not oppressed now. Oh, yeah, we still are. Well, how? Well, because people like me, my people, he may have just come from Somalia for all I know, I don't know, but he identifies with people from 150 years ago and the slavery that they had. Meanwhile, there's not one person alive that was penalized by that, not one person alive that did it. And I got to tell you, how many people in this room had their ancestors have slaves? Exactly. I know mine didn't, because my family didn't come here until my grandfather, and he brought my dad over from Holland. So, but we're all guilty because why? For having white skin of all nasty things. Their leadership has to be taken out. Has to be. We have to get rid of them, and we have to make them tell the truth. Now, I know, thinking in the future, and I said this when I was here last time, think about it, if politicians, and we can do this at some point, imagine if you're a politician, and when you're speaking, you have to wear a necklace. And if you start lying, it starts glowing. Do you get it? Shock collar would be good, but it just electrocutes you. No, I don't want that. Hold on with that question, Don, if you would. So what I'm saying is, look, we've got to make changes. This ain't working. It's working for the elites. The globalists, by the way, globalism, just remember, it's global socialism. Okay? The few controlling the many for the whole world. Always the dream of the socialists. Because why? They're totalitarians. That's just one brand of totalitarianism. And communism and socialism, Marx used both interchangeably. He thought them as the same thing. We try to parse the word. Oh, well, it's really not communism. And no, it is. It's totalitarianism is the key. It is a few controlling the many. Now I'm gonna move through this quick. I got some stuff as we move on. And then, Don, you got a question? Why don't you ask it now and put it out there for people, please?
I'm just going to make a comment that I read a science fiction story once about a society in which the leader carried a medallion on a chain around his neck. And every kiosk had buttons that anybody could vote for him or against him. And if they voted against him, if even one person voted against him, the medallion exploded.
Yeah, there you go. So,
Where can we get those?
It's afraid to be a candidate.
yeah, so there you go. So just putting this together, when I think of non-establishment, this is going to become important as I develop this, but, so these are the things I was talking about. So it's going to talk about non-established conservatives. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about Tea Party people, independents, constitutionalists, libertarians, the actually non-establishment Republicans, recovering Democrats, former silent majority, and party not determined. It's all those people. Man, there's a lot of people in that group.
Yep.
We've got to collectively go after these sons of guns and take them out. Because they aim to take us out. They do. We, the ordinary people, this country is ours. We can't just give it up. So how do we know this? Because our founding documents are the basis of our nation, and they tell us that that Constitution is the supreme law of the land. That we're supposed to have a limited government, not unlimited, and grasping for more power. You know, we probably have more people in government that don't work than do. Think about that. And yet, I remember Obama saying, our federal workers are the finest workers in the world. Well, that figures because you've never done anything but work for the government. Gone. It's awful. Ordinary people control their individual freedom, property, and person. That was what non-establishment people were about in a free market. We're Americans first supporters. Americans first. Not your identity, not anything else, not another country. We're Americans first. And that's what Donald Trump has been saying. And he is so on it. Happy he's our president. I'll tell you, I can't believe it. Okay, so how many people think they're leaders today in this room? You're leading something. I don't care if it's your family. How many people think of themselves as a leader in something? Your church, your neighborhood, this here. Yeah, like Shirley, right here, doing these kinds of meetings. A lot of us are leaders, but what are we leading to do? That's the question. So, definition, one who molds people and other assets to achieve an identified goal. That's a leader. And it has to be based on the reality of the position or place that you exist in. Much like GPS, if you want to go from A to B, you got to know where A is. That's where you start. So having the wrong starting position in GPS makes you unable to route to the place you want to go. If you want to be efficient and certain about arriving at your goal, you have to begin with the end in mind and be certain of where you're starting from. I added that to Steve Covey, a marvelous man I got to meet one time and had a wonderful conversation with him. He's passed away. But begin with the end in mind. It was one of his 7 habits of highly effective people. So where are we right now? We are at the brink of socialism. We are where we are today because both of the parties have brought us here. And they did it by human nature. Their human nature and ours. Ours, most people, is to trust. We believe in trust in this country. We trust our leaders. We trust. And the other thing is, the few want to control the many. Human nature, it's always been existing. World down here. So, if we view where we are now, government is a set of rules for our efforts together. It limits actions and exacts penalties to make certain that those rules are followed. But what if they're not followed? What if you say, well, we're going to have sanctuary cities where they're not allowed. We just won't follow the federal government. Or we'll exact rules for free speech on some, holding them back, and other people can have free speech. The people that speak the way we like. And the people that don't speak the way we like will use PC and say, well, that's hate speech. I hate their speech. That makes it hate speech. And that's what they do. Literally, that's what they're doing. I hate the way you talk. I don't want you talking about white people nicely. So that's hate speech if you do. You shouldn't talk about conservatives like that. They're awful. They're like Hitler. And people actually believe Hitler was from the right, not realizing apparently that the acronym Nazi is the German acronym for National Socialist Party of Germany. But they don't know it. In fact, this is the same part of the Democrats that teach people, and you hear it on the news, that the Ku Klux Klan came from the right. Well, good luck finding a Republican that's ever been in the Ku Klux Klan. because the Ku Klux Klan was started by the Democratic Party to keep blacks in their place after the end of the Civil War. But that's not all. Here's some additional information about this party. I posit that the Confederate Army was actually the Democratic Army of the South, marching to destroy this nation to get what they wanted, to keep power in their control, because everyone was a Democrat. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people died and were maimed because they were willing to destroy the country. You see, they've already tried this before. They're in a second round. They're in a second round. They're going to try to do it without guns, especially if they can take ours away. So think about that. So this is what, now, who was vice president? Just thinking about the whole picture, the history of this party, understanding the opponent that we're up against now. If you're going to lead away, you've got to understand who they are. So, who was vice president under Abraham Lincoln? Anybody remember? Andrew Johnson. What party was Andrew Johnson in? He was a Democrat. Well, why was he a Democrat? Because Lincoln was trying to get a coalition together to get this job done, to end slavery in the United States. And he needed some Democratic votes to make it happen. He pulls this guy in. All right, good. The Civil War is over. A few days later, what happens? Lincoln's assassinated. By whom? John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat. Who helps him get away? A guy named Mudd. Dr. Mudd, a Democrat. So who becomes president?
A Democrat.
A Democrat. Oh, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. And it's probably just a coincidence, too, that Andrew Johnson pardoned 13,000 Confederate people that controlled the South and put them all back in place. And from that came the Jim Crow laws and the Ku Klux Klan, the Night Riders, lynching 100,000 blacks and the same amount of white people who supported them. They never talk about that either. But that's real history. And so that happens, and who do they blame that on? The Republicans. Because they control the schools, so they lie. And so kids today think, well, the Jim Crow laws, that was the Republicans that did that. No, dumbass. No. You've just been taught that. And now you're finding out the truth. You need to ask yourself, your grandkids, your son, daughter, why was I taught wrong? So you would hate the people they want you to hate. So you can dehumanize them. You can beat them up on the street if you need to. Oh, wait a minute. That didn't happen in Nazi Germany, but that hasn't happened. Oh, wait a minute. What's the knockout game? Remember that? You've seen it. Still going on. Where you just pick a white person and you're of color and you go up and knock the living hell out of them. Maybe they die. Maybe they're just maimed.
Doesn't matter.
So it's happened before. You can go to the Holocaust Museum like I have. How many have been to the Holocaust Museum in D.C.? It's a depressing but historical place. So you can actually see captured films they had of the one that really sticks in my mind. And it's up high enough kids can't see it. You kind of look down at it as an adult. And I saw a tape of an attractive Jewish woman walking down the street, and she had a star on. They did this and filmed it. And she's just innocently walking down the street. Everybody came up, started beating on her, ripped all of her clothes off, right in the street. And then they cut it off. I don't know what happened after that. But you can do that once you hate. It's all fine. Once you hate. And what are those black people or people of color going in and knocking white people's heads? What's Antifa doing? Isn't it the same as the brown shirts in Germany? Of course it's the same. It's the same MO. It's the same people. Totalitarianism kind of right on the brink of taking our country over. And we have to fight back. But in order to fight back, you've got to know this is your opponent. They're liars. They're destroying your education. They're after your religion. They're teaching your kids to hate what you value. And right now, I'm sure you heard in the news in the last couple of days, 70% of millennials are willing to consider voting for socialism.
Yep.
Well, they've never been taught about capitalism. They don't know what it is. They don't really know much about socialism either, other than it's bad. I mean, capitalism bad. Socialism, good. Friends, we're in dire straits. We have to have this election. So you need to decide right now, we got 12 months. You got to decide how much money you're going to put in. How much is it worth to you to retain freedom for yourself and the family? You got to decide how much time you're going to put in. Because it's smaller groups like this all over the country that defeated those people last time. And unfortunately, even though we're all tired, even though we wish it weren't true, what I'm telling you is it's worse now than it was 4 years ago. We've got a beachhead. It's like we had D-Day and we're on the beach, but there's a long slog ahead. We have to destroy them. Have to. And Bill Barr is the hope to do that. Because we can't, unless we get them in the courtroom and show all their followers, all the brainwashed millions, what bastards they are, what they've actually been doing, not what they said they've been doing, that they don't deserve to touch this flag, let alone wrap themselves in it. They're not for the values that flag represents. They want that flag burned, changed forever, just like the Constitution and just like everybody else in this room. They are an enemy, and they're an enemy within. They are clearly within. Now, what we need to do is we need to play a long game. We need to announce, I'd love to do this myself. If I was running for Congress, I would and say, okay, I'm going to Congress because I want to make it the law in the United States that no socialist can be appointed or elected to government in the United States. Because you can't possibly be a socialist and swear allegiance to the values of that flag. You do not believe in free people. You do not believe in a free market. Those are the kinds of things we have to do. And until we take that bit in our teeth and run with it, all these skirmishes are not going to work. Talk to these veterans. Skirmishes is one thing, but you've got to win the war, man. And in the last one, it took something nobody even imagined. A bomb killing all these people that were innocent. But back that other thinking, that they were the superior ones and they had to wipe us out. This kind of tribalism isn't new, it's very old. It's very old. And the Democratic Party is doing it for themselves, and they're being aided by the establishment in our party. They are. McConnell, McCain, apparently you have to have an MC in there. I don't know. McConnell, McCain, Ryan, Romney. These people, in my opinion, are traitors to that flag. And we need to treat them as such. And I remember the first time I heard McCain, not McCain, but Romney, who I supported in 2012, gave money, had that nice picture of him standing in front of a barn with the American flag. If you give money to him, you get that. So I had that in my office. The only other picture besides the one I had of Donald Trump, beautiful hand-drawn thing, it was given to me as a present, which I gave to young Republicans that auction off and raise money for their Arizona chapter, ASU chapter. But I had Romney's picture in there. I heard that. I stood up. I walked in. I took it out of its frame. I shredded it into little pieces, and then I put it through my shredder. And I said, in my house, we never mention his name. He is a traitor. So, the worst kind. So, he's like Tokyo Rose, you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
So, we've got our work cut out for us, but we know what we've got to do. And it's we got to realize where it's coming from. The political parties run our government as a tool to benefit themselves and those who support them. This is not a new story. It's the oldest story in the history of mankind. The few controlling the many. So parties, the ruling elite in America and other Democrat Republicans that spawn, ordinary people want to control themselves. The ruling elite want to control themselves and us. And those parties are wedged between ordinary people and their government. They're similar to the ruling elite our founders confronted and went to war and lost everything. And they could have been kings. They gave it all. So this is what they're doing. They protect their own and not the people. They stack our courts. And so what I put in here, remember the Constitution or the Supreme Court, they've already talked about stacking the court. FDR almost did it, and they're talking about doing it. If they're going to get the national popular vote done, they're going to go to the Supreme Court, but they're not going to have the votes. They'll just, well, let's add another 5 or whatever and make them all Democrats.
How is that done? Does Congress do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Add
Yes.
Supreme Court justices?
Yeah.
Is it a simple majority or is it?
It's my understanding is it's policy that the House, they can put a bill up, pass it in the House, pass it in the Senate, and it's done.
Oh, okay. Then the president has to sign it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and if they're all Democrats,
You know,
Yeah, right.
they want to get that long ball because they know there'll never be anything but a Democrat if that goes through. So the big five rights, the documents of democracy, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right to equality, right to vote, we still have these rights, but we don't have them the way we did before. Why? Because our elections are being compromised.
Right.
They're lying. We all know it. I mean, I'm from Ohio. Vote early and often is the saying we all learn early from Chicago. Which Chicago, now if you want a long ball, do these two things. Number one, I think it should have already happened. You announce, if you're president, this is strong. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I just want you to all know this has already happened, so there's no sense in crying, wringing your hands over it. I've eliminated the FBI. I've determined that it is an enemy of the United States. It's acted in a coup against the duly elected administration of this country. Therefore, there is no more FBI. In fact, as I speak, the sign on what was the FBI building is being changed to U.S. Marshals. All of those people are gone, and we're vetting people carefully to take FBI agents and bring them into U.S. Marshals. Everybody else is just c'est la vie. That's what we should do. Those kinds of girth of things, we got to do it. We shouldn't allow any of this stuff, but that's one thing you can do. Anyway, my book has a lot of this stuff in it. You should get it. I've got some here tonight if you're interested in reading it. Right to life, you know. Our right to life has been diminished. Look what they've done. Do you remember abortion when it got started? What did they say? We'll never use public money for that. Oh no, we promise that will never happen. What was it? $900 million of public money went to Planned Parenthood last year. Oh yeah, and the Democrats fight for it too. If you won't give them that money to go do what we like, then we're not going to do it. And Margaret Sanger, you know, the whole thing with Sanger going over and teaching the Nazis, well, this is what you do. This is how you do the genocide. You just, like, abort them, kill them. This is what you do. Well, they said, all right, we'll do that. So they started neutralizing insane people, gypsies, killing Jews. It all worked out great. An American export. We should be so proud of it. The Democrats have done such a good job. And they revere her. So understand this reality. The parties have the control, the cash, and the power. They can't be defeated head on. We have to get together. In my book, I put in a Declaration of Independence and something called the Alliance Plan, which is what I've been working for years, which is I've been working to change the Republican Party. So, all right, I'm going in there. I'm going to work at it. And in LD 23, it is run by Tea Party people. That's the largest district in the state. We are Tea Party people. We push the other people out. We've beaten them at every turn. The Tea Party people control LD 23. LD 28, not so much, but 23. So it's a beachhead.
Yes, it is.
But we've got to vet people as PCs. You got to bring them in. If you're interested in it here, I did a whole plan on how to vet people and get the right people in that are true conservatives, non-establishment Republicans. And I'd be happy to share it with anybody. It's based on getting PCs by doing house parties. So you bring in your house and have somebody like me that knows what they're doing, and you sit down and you vet these people and you recruit them in to be PCs. And instead of people who don't know what they're doing, trying to get PCs and failing. So all you have to do is invite people over to your house and I will be there. Or somebody like me. So I got a plan for that, and if you want it, I'll share it with any good Republican group. It's a nice book.
Hey, Tim, I happen to be Gila County's PC coordinator.
Well, there you go. You need this.
We need about 45 or 15 more PCs.
Well, I'll send this to you, Shirley, so you have it. So, this book, I know it sounds like I'm selling books, but if you don't buy it, you don't buy it. But this is the book I've been talking about, and most of the stuff that I've been talking about comes out of this book, which I wrote. And it talks about right here. Realistic leadership dedicated to the principle of the Constitution, Judeo-Christian values, and ordinary people. And I dedicated this book, in fact, I'll read it right out of it. It says, dedication to ordinary people everywhere who preceded us and will follow us in the eternal pursuit of freedom. This is just the latest war, and they will come again. Always. It's human nature. The few want to control the many. We got a bulwark here. Let's see where we can take us to win. I really appreciate you being here tonight, and I know it's long-winded. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you or just talk with you about it. But if that's okay with Shirley, if you want, I
Yeah,
don't know
let's
what the
do
time
just
things
a
are.
really short Q&A because
Short Q&A.
otherwise we're gonna, okay.
Otherwise,
Did
people
you-
would fall asleep.
Glenn, did you have your hand up?
Thank you very much. I want a book, and then I want to know if you've seen the Washington Post article today. The Washington Post article today that said, that Baghdadi, how do you pronounce his last name? Baghdadi. Anyway, they said he was a religious scholar.
Austere religious scholar. And people joke today, you know, they said, that it'd be like saying Hitler was a guy with a mustache who was interested in community planning.
Yeah.
Died at 57 or however old he was.
Now, that's a Washington Post. Anybody that subscribes to that paper should cancel it.
Well, how about the New York Times? I got one a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't believe it. Have you seen it lately? I went through it. It's just unbelievable. It is so left-wing BS. Once again, if we had what I want, which is certified news, if you don't write it right and you can't back it up, or you can't do it in broadcasting, you can't back it up, well, then you lose your right to publish. Or say, CNBC, oh, well, you can't broadcast for a year.
I got one other
You're,
question.
you're off because we control the airwaves. Or, one other thing, with Facebook and those people, here's the deal. If anybody's going to censor and control how that goes, we're going to do it just like AT&T. You know, can you imagine AT&T? They go, hey, we're cutting off this phone conversation. You can't talk like that. Well, the Democrats can. What we need to do is put them in the same boat. Facebook, all of them, in the same boat. Twitter, here are the rules. You got to live by them, and you're not allowed to censor. It's controlled by the communication rules. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you know who Mark Harrison is?
No.
Mark Harrison was the chairman of Arizona State Bar for years.
Okay.
Who's the guy that tried to get me killed. And the only thing is, he filed an article with the court that said all this event happened, but they forgot to tell his notary who notarized it the day before.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Well, that's how it works. Little twist here, little twist there. Before you know it, we're all under control. Any other questions?
Tim?
Back to this
National
popular vote. The electoral college, I'm not unsure how these state electors work, and can they defect? I heard some of the things about that in the last election.
Yeah, so you may remember the very first thing after the election, the Democrats went after all electors. If you know Jim O'Connor, he was one of them, and he's a good friend of mine. And they called him, you can't vote for Trump. Don't do it. Change your vote. He says, well, I'm committed. I'm committed to vote, and it's the rules in our state. It's the tradition. It's what I've agreed to do. Doesn't matter. Break it. So there's some rules, or in some states it's easier to break because there's not a penalty. Why? Because people used to have honor. Honor. Can you imagine? People don't know what that is today. I'm not even sure what it is. What happened to honor? Well, there isn't any. So honor is what you make it, right? So yeah, they've gone after electors. So the rules over electors are all according to the state. That's according to the Constitution. So each state controls their own way of electing, nominating, and electing electors, and then how they have to vote. You know, I think there are 2 states that give you proportionate votes depending on how many votes you got in the state. If you got 2/3 of the state, you get 2/3 of the electors, and vice versa. And that's the way it works in only 2 states. Everybody else is winner take all in all the states. But that's state law. It is what it is, and the Constitution leaves that up to the states. But I will posit this when people talk about the national popular vote. Quick, tell me, what are the things that we vote on as a nation?
President,
Other than that,
senators, and congressmen.
no, we don't.
Amendments.
No, we don't. We vote for the people that vote for those, okay? We don't, there isn't any.
That's right.
Only the President of the United States
The president.
has 50 popular votes, 51, because of DC, and then they're weighted according to population. But according to the people on the Democratic side, and all the states that approved it, by the way, they've done better, I should tell you. Since I made that tape, they brought in more states, and they are now at 189 with Colorado pending.
Oh, yeah,
270 is what they need. All Democratic states.
yeah.
Why? Because the Democrats see it as a long ball, and we can eliminate those guys having a president. We'll always have the president.
Forever.
Sounds good. And by the way, let's recruit more people in. Let's just get rid of have open borders and bring people in. We'll make them all able to vote,
That's right.
and there won't be any offices that the bastards will have, right? Another question.
First, I'd like to give President Trump kudos for his work yesterday.
Absolutely.
The day before.
Yay!
Concerning the tax rate. He never gets any credit, but I'd like to give him some. I missed what station you were on?
I was on KKNT 960, the Patriot.
Okay.
I'm not there now.
Yeah, okay.
I had a sponsor and everything, but it was taking a lot of time, and I wanted to do more work in the party.
Mhm.
Now I'm going back.
Mhm.
I've done all this work for it. I decided I don't want to be a candidate. I want to push things like this through commentary and encouragement to step out and be an opponent to these Democrats. That's what we have to do. We have to.
I was on KK,
I might. I got asked by KKNT to come back. We'll see. We'll see.
I was on KKVB for 18 years.
Yes.
And another 10 years on a television program. And so I relate to your zeal for research.
Yes.
And so I would like to ask you, in your book, have you listed all the places that the Constitution is equal with the Word of God? Because I'm doing that research, and if
No.
you've already done it.
I haven't done it. I'd love to see that though, but no. I did the whole thing on what I call the Christian Citizenship Ministry.
Yeah.
It's got a good ring to it.
Okay.
Indeed, Christian citizens. But did it separately than the book. The
Okay.
book is more for
So
everyone.
I can find that information then?
No, I didn't do exactly what you're saying, but I have a lot more Christian stuff in that Christian Citizenship
Okay,
Ministry
good.
stuff. But please, I would love to see that when you're
Okay.
done.
The other thing is, I'm not worried about the color red, because the color red is the blood of Christ.
Yeah, I get that. But that's not how the left wing uses it.
Oh, we've changed that now.
Well, unless it's the blood of Christ and we killed him, you know, that sort of thing. All right, something else. Bill, do you have a question? I'm sorry.
I'm
Okay.
working my way
All right,
around.
you're calling. Sorry.
Yes, sir, I'd like to ask, the way the NPV would work is the states that have signed up would wait for the end of all the votes to be tallied. Sure. And let's say California, with all their millions of people, get a huge popular vote, then they would go with it.
That's right.
The
New
states that
York,
have signed
New York
up
and
for it.
New York and California are the lead two states in
So
this.
they're just gonna wait for those two states.
Sure,
to
all the
come in.
votes come in, and then whoever wins popular vote, that group,
Goes
the
to the
coalition,
electors.
gives all their electors, that's it.
Okay.
And so it didn't matter how your state voted, just theirs. Just the ones in the coalition.
Wow.
I
Thank
forgot
you.
to bring my map that shows the big states.
Yeah, so there's actually 16 that have approved it now. Almost all the Democratic states have done it.
A couple questions, I'll be quick. When I was 74, when I was younger, until 3 or 4 years ago, there were two parties, Republicans and Democrats. Now, in the last 3 or 4 years, they have hired some PR guy out of somewhere, Chicago, I suppose, and now they changed Democrat to Democratic, which is another word entirely. It's not an adverb, it's an adjective or something like that anyway. And you use it yourself, and I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm seeing more and more conservative, ordinary, I don't care about the liberals, using that word, it's catching on, and it scares me to death, because that's how the communists do it, they change little things word by word.
That's true, but on my behalf and everyone else, a lot of people have called it the Democratic Party for a long time. You know, but it is the Democrat. I mean, Rush does that a lot. The Democrats, the Democrat Party. And it is better to say it, it's more accurate. Because They want the whole manual. I agree with what you're saying, but there's a tradition of doing it.
This is, and I'll be quick, so it happens to me, I'm old. There are a lot of people running for president in the Republican Party who are calling themselves, what is it?
Stupid?
No, I'm sorry, Democrats
just a guess.
call themselves, they're Democrat socialists.
Yes.
Okay, now, again, I thought they were turning for the parties, but, and they're admitting on television with the 12 other candidates in the Democrat Party, they're admitting they're Democrat, the one old guy from, I can speak.
Bernie.
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, he, a Democrat socialist. Now, what has ever happened to our country? Thank you.
Well, what happened is the Democrats kept moving left. That's what happened. And they left me and others like you who might have been there. They just kept moving, marching to the left. So the left is pretty much in control of their party and they're coming out. So is it okay?
Okay, Warren, speak loud.
You were talking about the, making a certified news, can't publish, can't print, not certified, but how are you gonna guarantee?
Now, you can publish and print, but to be certified news, if you don't tell the truth and can back it up, then you lose your certification. So you
Okay.
can have all the opinion shows
So
you
you
want,
can
just
still-
like you can buy all the bananas you want that aren't certified organic.
Right, okay,
But if you want organic ones, they have to be grown and presented this way.
right.
So,
And the second question is about this MPV. What about, I mean, I've heard various things about, some people say it's not constitutional, some people say it doesn't have to be, it wouldn't have to be, they could get it through anyway. I mean, what's the argument for being able to block it on a constitutional basis?
well,
Or
the
is it?
Constitution says this is how it works. And they're trying to go around it. Even the U.S. News and World Report is saying, well, that effort is a way to bypass the Constitution. But the proponents don't usually say that. It's just a correction on the way it was done wrong by the founders.
I understand that, but can that still be challenged constitutionally?
Well, yeah,
Block
and you
that?
would expect it would go to the Supreme Court.
Right.
But they will likely stack the Supreme Court,
Okay.
and you'll get people like Sotomayor, who actually has said, much to our chagrin, I will make my decisions based on my life experience as a Latina. Are you
Why is
kidding me?
Latina? Why?
Shut up. That would be, she should be thrown out just for that.
Yeah, she should be.
Fair and balanced, blind justice, this is what we need. But the twist is, that's for you guys, whereas Zelensky said, always make your opponent follow the rules and you make your own.
Yeah.
And they always said, he also said, I love this, and Hannity gets confused about this, always said, always put your opponent on the defensive and always project upon your opponent what it is that you're doing wrong. That's exactly what they do. Now, there's something you ought to see, and I don't have time to show it to you, but in 2017, there's a tape out there of Nancy Pelosi discussing they call it the RAP, I think it's called the RAP procedure. And what she says is, well, what we do, and she said this on tape to a bunch of Democrats. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She goes, well, what you do is you make a bunch of complaints, make up things about your opponent, and then you give them to the press. The press, of course, they control the press. They regurgitate it, and then you refer to the press saying it's been reported in the New York Times that the crap that we said and made up, like a dossier, is real. And if you can put it into, she didn't say, into the intelligence network, then you'll have 17 Democrat bureaucracy. That's the deep state, is the Democrats that control the intelligence system in the United States, the bureaucracy. They've been working on this for years. They're out there fighting, whether it's the IRS, that, you know what, here's another long ball. What we should do is demand that the NSC, and what is it that Clapper,
National, Director of National.
yeah, he's the
National
DNI.
Security.
Thank you, NSA. Thank you so much. The NSA. What we should do is demand that the NSA not record, look, or pay any attention to ordinary Americans. But what we do want you to do is watch every other person on the planet, and especially any appointed or elected or hired government official in the United States. Watch everything that they do. Every word, every email, everything. So what's happening is Those guys are watching us. We need to switch around so that we're watching them. And every year, in the State of the Union, we should have a report back on how well they did at getting the bad people out of our government and keeping them out. That's what we should do. But do we do it? No, we sit back and go, yeah, we don't have any long bones.
Patriot Act.
Well, yeah, well,
Okay, Janet,
it
it's
didn't happen.
quarter
though.
of.
Okay.
We need to wind it up here.
Take
So
the
thank
mic
you,
away.
Tim.
Thank you.